Wendy Wilkins, as I live and breathe. Before we start, I got to throw out some love to a mutual friend, Allison Volk.
Oh my God, yes. Oh,
Uh,
I feel like we might have talked before.
yeah, we have for I think it was it
Beanie Bean.
Deanie Bean. Yeah,
Yes,
what a fun movie that was. But
I had
now,
such a fun time making that movie. What a great role for me, right?
yeah, and now we're now you're calling the shots. So there,
Yeah.
which is something you're used to. I know that you've directed and produced and written and all of that. And Death on the Border is such a interesting film because it's like torn out of today's headlines.
Right. I know. I know. It's I was a bit sort of, oh gosh, with the title, but I realized my whole encompassing, theme for a movie is this movie is to protect the innocents. And really, with what's going on another border, that's what we just have to shine a light on. And no matter, I think one of the things that's really, really difficult, and why one of the reasons I wrote this movie, is because we can get overwhelmed,
Yeah.
by everything going on. But if just one person makes a positive difference, then we can make a difference in the world. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think knowing what's going on the borders and in different countries is got to happen because we kind of keep a blind eye to things that we feel are uncomfortable as an audience. But this movie really immerses itself into the extremes of saving people.
Yeah, and I wanted to make a movie. It's inspired by true events from when I was a cop, but I wanted to make a movie, not a documentary, in a narrative form that was, I suppose, palatable, but very women empowerment and hopeful in the end. I think even though there is death, there is hope. So that's really what I was trying to achieve, and hopefully I did.
How many rewrites did the film go through?
Not that many, but well, actually, the yes, actually, it did go through quite a few rewrites. Now that, in fact, I wrote a scene on the fly on the last day, uh, because we were running out of time, and it was my role as the actress. And
Wow.
so we couldn't do a setup shot, and I don't, it's kind of now one of my favorite scenes in the movie. But we were supposed to have it might be a bit of a spoiler alert if I tell it, but Eric Roberts' character was supposed to be watching from the outside, but we made him suddenly inside, and I just love the scene because it's sort of much more jarring, and it worked. But I wrote that on the fly.
Well, let's talk about your cast because you have a brilliant cast. At first, you mentioned Eric Roberts. I've known Eric for a long time, and he really does immerse himself into his characters. I mean, he's just a brilliant actor. And then you have Danny Trejo, who is, he's just an amazing guy, and he's playing a priest in
Yeah,
this.
yeah, and but he still gets a machete moment.
Yeah, well, of course.
Which my DP was like, we have to have a machete moment. So but yes, it was such a joy to direct. This was my first feature directing, by the way, so it was such a joy to direct these veterans. And I've told the other journalists that this was a reunion for them too, because they met on Runaway Train, and
Right.
Eric apparently got Danny his first movie role, so Danny says. So it was just so great that they brought my words off the page in such a way that was a joy to watch.
And that's such an amazing thing because I met them on Runaway Train as well. Because yeah, John Voight's a dear, dear friend, and so he brought me into the set, and it's like I love Eric. I absolutely adore him. And Shannon Elizabeth, wow, you got a great performance out of her. And
Yes, yeah.
again, we don't think of her normally in a dramatic, kind of role like this, but boy, she really shines.
Yeah, and I think that's why she was so excited to get offered this role, because she told me she had never been offered roles like this. And so she really sunk her teeth into it, and yeah, she was great. We we did most of her filming in one take.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, That's somebody that knows their character.
Yes, she was really yeah, we sat in my lounge room and talked about the script a fair bit, and you know, she's an animal activist, so she was playing with my doggy and loved the juiciness of the role that has an activism side to it, and that it was a woman empowerment, that you know it was a fully fledged character.
Wow. And Frank Whaley is it's you know, again, I always think of him in comedic roles, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because of his how he's built. But boy, again, what a great performance out of him as well.
Yeah, yeah. He was only on for a couple of days, but we got it.
Yeah, obviously. So my question about how many rewrites goes to this is uh, the characters that you've written are so deep. I mean, they're not like superficial characters. So again, did you spend time on each one of those characters, or did it just come out of you and say, "Wow, this is
Um, well, a bit of both. It was one of the scripts that I wrote the quickest, actually, but it kind of it got into I entered it into the emerging screenwriters, and it got to the quarterfinals, so that kind of kept me working on it. And I was saying before to someone else that you know I wanted really fully fledged characters, and humans are flawed, and you know the dirty cop characters, they never started out to be that. They started out with good intentions but got deeper and deeper into their holes. And I love watching movies like that where, oh, there's no way out, what in their minds.
it really shines. I mean, it's a white knuckle ride, and you don't know where it's going to end until it absolutely does. And even then, you're going, well, wait a minute, you know. So it's a water cooler conversation.
Yes, and that's kind of what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be like, you know, verging into a tunnel where or funnel where you know there was really no way out for anyone.
Hmm.
And but I also wanted there to be some hopeful parts. But there are a couple of areas in the movie where you can breathe, you know, so but mostly I wanted it to be, you know, moving forward. I'm a fan of edit.
Now you've directed a few times, you know, and all that, but again, on a big feature like this, you've got to know everything. You've got to have your handle on, you know, everything from the catering to the lighting. Is it overwhelming at times?
You know, I it was actually overwhelming more in post. but um but it when you're in it, I love the adrenaline of going. We had a really tight schedule. I had an amazing DP, Tom Colley, shout out to him. He does a lot of the reality shows, so I knew he'd move fast. You know, he does like Below Deck, Mediterranean, all of those. And him and his team were fantastic. And you know, I felt like I mean, you can prep and prep. We did tons of prep, but then, boy, there was stuff that we had not planned for. We had a crazy criminal producer very early on we had to terminate, and then the wheels started to fall off, and then we put them back together. And I think when you have a very tight box to work within, it makes for a better movie in the end. But thank God I was the writer too, because that actually helped.
I've actually had directors tell me, and these are, you know, prominent directors, it's thank God I didn't have a lot of money to produce a film, because you're more creative, I think, with a lower budget.
Well, I mean, I would have liked a bit more, but it's there. But
Well,
yeah, the thing is, you have to work within a budget. So even there was a stage. So yeah, and I have some big director friends too that, you know, I was telling them what was happening. It's funny, as soon as you pull back the curtain, they're like, wow, this happened on this movie and this happened on that movie. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm feeling a bit better now.
yeah, yeah,
uh,
for sure.
yeah, but I think it's more about, yeah, more money doesn't necessarily mean a better film.
Hmm.
And when you have to work within a framework, you really have to work within it. But by the way, I have to give a shout out also to Judd Nelson, because he was offered the role early on, but for various very early stages, but for various reasons couldn't do it. But he really liked my script, so he was helping me with some ideas, and he came up with some really fantastic. He's a great writer, so
Yeah, Judd is an amazing guy and a hell of an actor too. I mean,
yeah.
From the Hip is one of my favorite Judd Nelson movies.
Right. Yeah. So he's been really supportive all the way along as well. So even though he didn't actually play a role in it, but except for some great gems for the rewriting. Yeah.
Well, on your next film about the crazy criminal producer, he could play that.
Thank you, Tony. That's a good idea. We almost were going to make a film about making the film because people wouldn't believe, behind the scenes. Yeah.
And what do you think audiences are going to take away from watching Death on the Border?
Well, I was telling this story before that what I want and my joy, and it happened in one of the first cuts we were watching, and the editor brought his wife along, and I think she's a nurse or something. And at the end of it, they were arguing with each other about scenes and saying, he said, oh, a man wouldn't do that. And she said, yes, he would because of this and that. So I really want to create debate, and through the debate that shines a light on these subjects. That's one thing. I love that type of film. And, I think it's the type of film that you need to watch a second time to pick up certain things. And I also, of course, the main thing is I want to shine a light on domestic violence. Can happen to anyone. It happened to me, and I was a cop, so go figure. And the most important is trafficking of children, that just shine a light that maybe we can help one person, 2 people, 10 people, 1,000 people.
We just need to open our eyes a little bit more.
Exactly.
And you being a cop, though, that really does inform what you do in front of and behind the camera.
Yeah, I think, I like watching films. I love, Quentin Tarantino and people that I really like when they, the cops that are not, cookie cutter characters. Because, we're human. I was one. And so, I had a couple of conversations with Kika, especially, talking about sort of you're already a cop, you don't have to play, and she did a great performance. And it's like just talking about how we don't have to play at it, we are.
But you're also a brilliant actress too. I mean, you've done stage, you've done Shakespeare and all of that, and you bring that energy and empathy to whatever set you're on.
Thank you. And I just don't get enough chance to play, but I really, but that's why I think, as I'm an actor's director too, I really trust that the actors are going to bring it, and I just need to tweak it, in certain areas. But I really love that side of it. But I really, I never planned to be a director, but my music supervisor composer was also my PA on set, and I mean, below her pay grade, of course, she wanted to be there, but she said, "You found your forte." So,
there you go. Yeah. And I just have to ask, why the phony Australian accent? I just.
So the only place that's been screened so far is the Beverly Hills Film Festival. It got opening night, and one of my girlfriends, who's an actress, brought her a friend, and he said, wow, Wendy can do an American accent.
Well, there you go. Our time is all up, and I could talk to you for another couple of hours. I'm going to try to hit you up on social media, get a little bit longer time with you if you're, okay with that. But congratulations. This is really it's a solidly good film. It's a wonderful thriller and great character study as well.
Thanks, Tony. It's nice to talk to you. And yeah, I love Alison too. She inspired me. She's so fantastic as well. Yeah.
Well, let's all get together for coffee when I hit LA.
Let's do it.
All right. Thank you, and have a great day.
All right. You too.
Bye-bye.